Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about a hot topic, at least for me. Cash or cashless? Which one are you? Now, do you do cash or do you do cashless? And which one is right for you? Hi, my name is Janelle. I'm a wife and a mother of one, and on here I do all things cashless budgeting. So if that is something that you're interested in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So today we're going to be talking about whether cash or cashless is right for you. And we are going to jump right on into it. So first we are going to talk about convenience. Now, I used to do cash. I started out budgeting with cash. I would go to the bank every time I got paid. I took out my money. I had my little white envelopes. I wasn't even fancy, y'all. I wrote the names on them and I would cash stuff all of my different envelopes. My envelopes and my sinking funds and savings. And it worked at that time because I would get paid. I got paid like twice a month, and it was always like in the middle of the week whenever I was off work. And so I was able to find the time. I didn't have a child. I wasn't restricted or anything like that. And I would go and find the time to go to the bank, get my denominations, and do all of the things. As I advanced further on in my budget, I realized that the cash wasn't working anymore, especially in 2020 when the pandemic hit, and you really couldn't go and get cash and things like that. I started to slowly switch over to the cashless method. Now, for me, there were two different types of cashless methods that we will talk about later on. But I did go cashless, and what I would do is that I just kept like a little booklet or the cash envelopes and had like a little note card on the inside, and I would track my expenses there, and I would just transfer the money over or pay off the credit card at the end of the week or at the end of the month. And ever since 2020, I have been cashless, and I don't think I will ever go back to cash. Now, when I pose this question, one thought is to think about is convenience. Now, is getting cash convenient for you? Do you have your local bank that is, close enough to you for you to be able to go every week whenever you get paid to get your denominations and then have them stuff in time for you to then go and actually spend the money? Because sometimes I know we may need some gas money, or we need to go quickly to the grocery store. We got paid on Friday in the morning, but it's already the morning. You don't have any gas in your car, or you needed to go to the grocery store, and now you're using other different types of funds to be able to fund the things that you need before you can go and get the cash. Those were some of the problems that made me switch from cash to cashless, because I can instantly transfer money over from my main account to my separate checking account, and the money was there in minutes, and I can swipe and go. Like I said, in 2020, when the pandemic hit, it was a lot easier because everybody was doing contactless pay. And so you could go to the grocery store and still spend money without having to use physical cash. One of the things that I eventually started getting wrapped up into was I needed the money, and I hadn't gone to go and do my denominations to get out my money. And the biggest issue with that is because I do create content around budgeting, I needed to get the money so that I could do my cash budgeting video before I could spend the cash. And I hated spending the cash before doing the video because I felt like then it just threw me off, and then in just real time with budgeting, it was throwing my budgeting off. So for me, the convenience of going to get cash every week or every 2 weeks was just a no-go for me. And in that season of my life, I was still paycheck to paycheck and kind of just still trying to figure things out. And so it just did not give me any room for error. And so those are one of the things I would think about if I was going from cash to cashless. Next is going to be discipline. And all of us, I think, at some point in time, we lack discipline. And that's a lot of the reasons why a lot of us grasp to the cash envelope system was because it allows us to be disciplined in how much money we're spending, get ourselves out of debt if we were in debt, focusing on saving and investing and focusing on our future. With the cashless system, if you decided to go that route, or if you stayed with cash, you need a little bit of discipline, right? And so for me, when I was switching over to the cashless system, it requires some discipline on whichever type of cashless system you decide to go with. So right now I'm going to talk about the debit version because that was the original version I did. With this debit version, originally I had opened up a Capital One checking and savings account. I had my savings account where I held all of my sinking funds. And then the checking account was where I transferred all of our spending money into that checking account. And that was the account that I used for spending. So whatever money I put into that account, that was the only money I had to be able to spend. I believe that this debit version is very closely more related to the cash envelope system because of the fact that you only have that money. It's separated from your regular operating checking account, so you don't really have a buffer to overspend. It still helps you to be mindful, and it still makes you kind of like think like, oh my gosh, do I have enough money to spend in that particular account? Versus what I then started doing, which was the cashless credit card method, where I was spending on my credit card and then I would just pay that back weekly or monthly. And the thing with that is if you're already working with a tight budget and you're using a credit card that has money on there, you tend to overspend because you think you can spend the money and pay it back later, or you give yourself that like, it's okay. Like, I don't have it. I was going to spend it anyway, so I'm just going to charge it to the card type thing. If you are not that person, then you are definitely a credit card person, as Caleb Hammer would say. But especially when you're a beginning budgeter, I wouldn't recommend using a credit card as your like cashless system. I know a lot of us think that, if we're using our credit card, then we're getting all these points and rewards back and things like that. But somewhere down the line, you are going to spend more than you have. And then you get yourself into the kind of debt that maybe you don't want to be in. So I think if you are a cash person and you maybe want to go cashless and you're not sure which one to go, I do think that doing the debit version is very much more relatable in terms of like your cash. You just don't have to physically touch the cash, but you're still monitoring all of your spending. You're still tracking your spending and seeing how much money came out of whatever spending categories you have. And you still, to me, I feel like I still get that like knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, I only got $50 in my account. I can't go and swipe to go get or spend $100 on the card because it's going to get rejected. I do not keep like overdraft protection. So there goes like that out of the door. Like I know that it's going to get rejected if I try to go and spend it. So I think that is another thing to think about, is just how disciplined are you if you're wanting to go to a cashless system and maybe put in place a way to track your spending and keep up with how you're spending your money. I do believe that expense tracking is the most important part of any budget, financial budget that you may have. Next is going to be security. How secure? I think there are, or I don't think, I know there are stories for both sides. However, cashless is a little bit more secure than cash is. If you lose that cash, that money's just gone. That's it. And just depending on how much money you keep on your persons at all time, that could be $100, $500, $1,000. Once that money is taken out of the bank and you're out and you lose that money, or somebody takes that money from you, or you misplace that money is gone. Whenever it is sitting in a checking account, there are just a little bit more security measures that you may or may not have to protect you just a little bit. And if you're using a credit card, you have all of the protection in the world because it's not your money. And so those people are going to go back and get their money if it wasn't a purchase that you made, just depending on the credit card that you are using. But most credit cards that I know of, they have really good like fraud protection. And I think that's just important, in this day and age, is to just think about the security of the money that you have, or making sure that if you are using cash, that you're not carrying around too much money on you, because you just never know. At least if you have like a debit card or a credit card, like if you lost a card, you can quickly go and lock the card. So even if somebody found the card, they're not able to use it. So there's those little things in place that will help you if you were to lose your credit card or debit card. So definitely security is something you should think about whenever you're thinking about cash versus a cashless system budgeting. And lastly, is it budget friendly? And I say this to say is because sometimes we all can get a little carried away, including myself, with wanting to have all of the cute like binders and folders and envelopes and markers and crayons and stickers and all of those things to make budgeting fun, because sometimes it can be daunting, sometimes it can be depressing, especially if you're not making enough money to survive. And I think when it comes to the cash envelope systems, sometimes we definitely can go way out of our budget to go and purchase all of these things. However, a lot of places are offering a lot of budget-friendly items that you can still use and enjoy, versus the cashless method, which doesn't necessarily require you to have all of those things. Literally, as I'm doing this video, I was thinking to myself that I actually don't need the binders that I actually have. I could have one spreadsheet that houses all of my expenses, and I just write them as I go. And then I just separate them at the end of the month. And that takes away from clutter, additional spending that I could be using for other things, like how we are paying off our household debt after becoming personally debt-free back in 2024. And so I think about all of these things as you grow in your budgeting journey. You just learn new things and you make your budget work for you, because it is a personal budget. And so think about these things on how it can still be budget friendly. Do you need to spend $500 on envelopes and stickers and all of those things? Or can you do a more simplified version of that? Or if you decide to go cashless, making sure that you're finding a checking and savings account that does not cost you anything. There are so many different types of banks out there that do not charge you a fee. 3 of my favorite accounts that I actually use is, one was Capital One, which was my first high yield savings account that I opened. And then I also use Ally Bank, and I also use SoFi Bank for my personal spending. I do have my SoFi Bank and Ally Bank link in the description box below if you guys are interested in any of those high yield savings accounts. Sometimes they do offer specials to both me and or you if you signed up in fund in accounts. But I really love them because they also allow you to, transfer money over quickly using Zelle or anything like that. And you can have your own separate account for maybe your spending account or operating account and just use that money there. Great banks if you're looking for some. I know there's so many more, you guys, so definitely do your research and find what works for you. But once again, are you cash or are you cashless? Comment down in the description box below. I would love to hear you all's thoughts. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.